Everyone in the office was staring at Daniel. Some people looked angry. Others were whispering. Then suddenly someone shouted, "He stole the money!" The room instantly turned against him. I knew something was wrong with him. "Call security!" Daniel's heart started beating faster. "I didn't do anything. You have to believe me." But nobody listened. Years of honesty meant nothing. As security slowly walked toward him, Daniel realized he was about to lose everything. Then, a voice came from the back of the room. "Wait, before you blame him, check the CCTV footage." The entire office fell silent. A few seconds later, the video started playing, and everyone's faces suddenly changed. A few hours earlier, Daniel Carter was having what seemed like a completely normal day. For 6 years, he had worked at the company with honesty and dedication. He was never late. He never argued with anyone. And whenever a coworker needed help, Daniel was always there. But despite his kindness, he was often ignored. Many employees considered him boring because he lived a simple life. He never wore expensive clothes. He never tried to impress anyone. Some people even believed that quiet people like Daniel could never become successful. Still, Daniel never complained. He simply focused on his work and treated everyone with respect. That afternoon, the company was preparing for an important announcement. A large amount of money had been collected for a charity project. Managers were busy. Employees were discussing future plans. The entire office was filled with excitement. Daniel was quietly organizing some documents near the finance department when suddenly a loud scream echoed through the office. "The money is missing!" Everyone froze. Within seconds, panic spread everywhere. Managers rushed into the room. Employees began searching desks and cabinets. Nobody could understand how such a large amount of money could disappear. Then one employee suddenly looked at Daniel. "Wait." The entire room turned toward him. "I saw Daniel near this office earlier." Daniel looked confused. "Yes, I was here," he replied calmly. "I was delivering documents." But another employee immediately spoke. "I saw him too." Suddenly, whispers began spreading across the office. People started looking at Daniel differently. For the first time in years, he felt uncomfortable. The same coworkers who had laughed and talked with him every day were now staring at him with suspicion, and deep inside, Daniel had a terrible feeling that his life was about to change forever. The whispers inside the office kept growing louder. Some employees slowly stepped away from Daniel. Others looked at him with disappointment. A few people even started shaking their heads. Daniel couldn't believe what was happening. Just a few minutes ago, everything had been normal. But now everyone was treating him like a criminal. One manager suddenly walked toward him. "Daniel, is there something you want to tell us?" Daniel looked shocked. "Sir, I have no idea what happened. I didn't take anything." But his words didn't seem to convince anyone. Another employee crossed his arms and said, "Then why were you near the finance office?" "I was only delivering documents," Daniel replied. Yet the whispers became even louder. "I knew something was strange about him. He always acts too quiet. Maybe he was pretending to be a good person." Every word felt like a knife in Daniel's heart. These were the same people he had worked with for 6 long years. The same people he had helped countless times. And now, not even one person was willing to trust him. Daniel looked around the room. He hoped that someone would defend him. That someone would say, "No, Daniel would never do something like this." But nobody spoke. Nobody stood beside him. At that moment, Daniel realized something painful. Sometimes it only takes one accusation for people to forget years of honesty. A few moments later, the company director entered the office. The room immediately became silent. His expression looked serious. "Until we discover the truth, nobody leaves this office." Daniel's heart started beating faster. The situation was becoming worse. Then suddenly, one employee pointed directly at him and shouted, "I think Daniel took the money." The room exploded with whispers once again. And for the first time in his life, Daniel felt completely alone. The accusation spread through the office like wildfire. People who had once smiled at Daniel were now looking at him with anger and suspicion. Some employees even moved farther away from him, as if he had already confessed to the crime. Daniel could hardly believe what was happening. "I didn't take the money," he said once again. But nobody seemed willing to listen. One employee suddenly laughed. "Come on, Daniel, just tell the truth." Another person added, "It would be better if you admitted it now." Daniel felt his chest tighten. For 6 years, he had worked honestly. He had never stolen anything in his life. Yet within a few minutes, everyone had already decided that he was guilty. The company director looked at him seriously. "Daniel, this is your final chance. Is there anything you want to say?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Sir, I swear, I didn't do it." The room became silent for a moment. Then someone whispered, "If he's innocent, then where did the money go?" That question made everyone even more suspicious. Some people slowly shook their heads. Others looked disappointed. A few employees even started taking out their phones and quietly recording the situation. Daniel lowered his head. He had never felt so humiliated before. The people he trusted were treating him like a criminal. Suddenly, security guards entered the office. The atmosphere immediately became tense. One of the guards slowly walked toward Daniel. At that moment, Daniel's heart began beating faster. Was he really about to lose everything because of something he never did? And then, something unexpected happened. A young employee standing near the back of the room suddenly frowned. "There is something strange about all of this." Everyone turned to look at him. The entire office turned toward the young employee. He looked nervous but slowly stepped forward. "There is something strange about this situation," he said. "What do you mean?" the director asked. The employee took a deep breath. If Daniel really stole the money, then why would he stay here? The room suddenly became quiet. People looked at each other. For the first time, some employees seemed uncertain. The young man continued. "The money disappeared almost 30 minutes ago. If he had taken it, he would have tried to leave the building." A few people slowly nodded. His words actually made sense. But before anyone could say anything, another employee immediately interrupted. Maybe he stayed because he thought nobody would suspect him. The whispers started once again. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. No matter what happened, people kept finding reasons to blame him. Then suddenly one of the managers spoke. "Enough." The entire room became silent. There is only one way to know the truth. Everyone looked at him. The manager slowly pointed toward the large television screen in the office. "Let's check the CCTV footage." The atmosphere instantly changed. Some employees looked relieved. Others suddenly appeared nervous. Daniel slowly raised his head. For the first time since the accusation began, a small feeling of hope appeared inside him. If the cameras had recorded everything, then the truth would finally come out. Within moments, an IT employee started opening the security recordings. Everyone moved closer to the screen. Nobody said a single word. The room was completely silent. The video slowly began to load. Daniel's heart was beating faster than ever. This footage would either destroy his life completely or prove his innocence. A few seconds later, the screen turned on. And the moment the video started playing, the expressions on several people's faces suddenly changed. Everyone stared at the screen in complete silence. The CCTV footage slowly began to play. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Employees could be seen walking through the office as they normally did. Daniel appeared on the screen as well. He was carrying some documents and quietly placing them on a desk. A few people immediately pointed at the screen. "Look, there he is!" But the video continued. A few seconds later, Daniel was seen leaving the finance office with empty hands. The room suddenly became quiet. Daniel looked at the screen without saying a word. Then the footage moved forward. Another employee entered the office. Then another. Everything still seemed normal. But suddenly, a shadow appeared near the door. A person wearing a dark jacket slowly walked into the finance office. Because the person's face was partially hidden, nobody could immediately recognize who it was. The entire office moved closer to the screen. Some employees looked confused. Others began whispering again. "Who is that? I've never seen that jacket before." The mysterious person looked around carefully. Then, after making sure nobody was nearby, the person slowly opened the drawer where the money had been kept. The room instantly became silent. Daniel's eyes widened. A few employees covered their mouths in shock. Nobody could believe what they were seeing. The mysterious person quickly took something from the drawer and hid it. Then the person turned toward the camera. And at that exact moment, several employees suddenly looked terrified because they had just realized something. They recognized the jacket, and they knew exactly who that person was. The room fell completely silent. Nobody could take their eyes off the screen. Several employees slowly turned their heads toward one corner of the office. A man standing near the back suddenly became pale. Sweat appeared on his forehead. His hands started shaking. Daniel noticed it immediately. The mysterious person in the CCTV footage was wearing the exact same jacket. A few moments later, the person on the screen slightly turned his face, and then everyone gasped. It was Mark, one of Daniel's coworkers, the same man who had first suggested that Daniel might be the thief. "No, this can't be possible," someone whispered. The video continued. Everyone watched as Mark quickly hid the money inside his bag before calmly walking out of the office. The entire room was in shock. A few employees covered their mouths. Others lowered their heads in embarrassment. The same people who had accused Daniel only minutes earlier now looked ashamed. The director's face turned serious. He slowly turned toward Mark. "Explain this right now." Mark looked terrified. I can explain." But nobody was listening anymore. For several seconds, the room remained silent. Then something unexpected happened. Mark suddenly lowered his head and started crying. "I didn't want to do this," he said with a trembling voice. "I was drowning in debt. My family was struggling and I didn't know what to do." Tears filled his eyes. "But I never thought things would go this far." Everyone stood there speechless. Then Daniel looked at him. After everything that had happened, after being humiliated and falsely accused, nobody knew what Daniel was going to say next. The entire office remained silent. Everyone was waiting for Daniel to react. Some people expected him to become angry. Others thought he would finally take revenge after being humiliated in front of everyone. Mark kept his head down. Tears were falling from his eyes. "I am sorry, Daniel," he said in a trembling voice. "I never wanted to blame you. I was scared. I thought if people suspected me, I would lose everything." Nobody said a single word. A few employees slowly lowered their heads in shame. They had all accused an innocent man without any proof. The company director looked furious. "Mark, you not only stole the money, but you also tried to destroy an innocent person's reputation." Mark could not even lift his head. Meanwhile, Daniel stood there quietly. His heart was filled with pain, not because of the money, but because the people he had trusted for 6 years had turned against him within minutes. He looked around the room. The same coworkers who used to smile at him now couldn't even look him in the eyes. One woman slowly stepped forward. "Daniel, we're so sorry." Then another employee spoke. "We should have listened to you." Soon several people started apologizing. The office was filled with regret, but Daniel remained silent. After a few moments, he finally spoke. "Do you know what hurts the most?" The room immediately became quiet again. "I am not hurt because you accused me." Tears appeared in his eyes. "I am hurt because none of you trusted me." His words hit everyone deeply, because they knew he was right. And for the first time that day, everyone truly understood how badly they had failed him. The room became completely silent. Nobody could look Daniel in the eyes. Several employees slowly lowered their heads in shame. For years, Daniel had been one of the kindest people in the company. He had helped others countless times. He had never caused any problems. Yet the moment something went wrong, everyone immediately believed he was guilty. Daniel took a deep breath. "I spent 6 years working beside all of you," he said softly. "I thought we were more than just co-workers." His voice was calm, but the pain in his eyes was impossible to hide. "I believed that after all these years, at least one person would trust me." A few employees started crying. Others looked completely embarrassed. Daniel slowly looked around the office. "But today I learned something important." Everyone listened carefully. Sometimes it only takes one accusation for people to forget years of honesty. His words felt like knives in their hearts. The company director slowly stepped forward. "Daniel, on behalf of everyone here, I sincerely apologize." Then something unexpected happened. The director turned toward everyone and said, "Every single person in this room owes Daniel an apology." One by one, employees began apologizing. Some admitted that they had judged him too quickly. Others confessed that they had simply followed the crowd without thinking. Even Mark, with tears in his eyes, walked toward Daniel. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I ruined your reputation because of my own mistakes." For a few moments, Daniel said nothing. Then he slowly looked at Mark. And nobody in the room knew what he was going to do next. Would he forgive the man who had destroyed his reputation? Or would he finally seek justice after everything he had suffered? The entire office held its breath. Nobody knew what Daniel was going to do. Mark stood there with tears in his eyes, unable to look at anyone. For a few moments, complete silence filled the room. Then Daniel slowly walked toward him. Everyone watched carefully. Some employees thought Daniel would refuse to forgive him. Others believed he would demand punishment. After everything that had happened, nobody would have blamed him. Mark's hands were shaking. "I'm truly sorry, Daniel," he said again. "I was desperate. My family is drowning in debt, and I made the worst decision of my life. Tears rolled down his face. I never wanted an innocent person to suffer because of me. Daniel looked at him quietly. Then he remembered all the painful moments from earlier. The accusations, the humiliation, the disappointed faces, the people who had treated him like a criminal. For a few seconds, pain could be seen in Daniel's eyes. Then he took a deep breath. I won't pretend that what happened today didn't hurt me, he said softly. The room remained silent. But hatred will not fix anything. Everyone looked surprised. Daniel slowly turned toward the other employees. Today, all of you judged me without proof. Several people lowered their heads again. But if I choose hatred now, then I will become no different. Tears appeared in the eyes of some employees. At that moment, they realized how kind Daniel truly was. A man they had falsely accused was still choosing kindness instead of revenge, and that made everyone feel even more ashamed. Daniel looked at Mark for a few more seconds. Then, to everyone's surprise, he slowly extended his hand. The entire office was shocked. Mark looked up, unable to believe what he was seeing. You made a terrible mistake, Daniel said calmly. But one mistake should not destroy your entire life. Tears immediately filled Mark's eyes. I don't know if I deserve your forgiveness, he whispered. Daniel gave a small smile. Maybe you don't, but everyone deserves a chance to become a better person. The room became completely silent. Several employees could no longer hold back their emotions. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others felt even more ashamed of how quickly they had judged him. The company director slowly stepped forward. Daniel, your honesty and kindness have taught all of us an important lesson today. He then turned toward the employees. Never judge someone without knowing the truth, and never let suspicion destroy trust. Everyone nodded. They knew they would never forget this day. As for Mark, he promised to accept responsibility for his actions and repay every cent that he had stolen. Before leaving the office, Daniel looked around one last time. The same people who had once looked at him with suspicion were now looking at him with respect, because they had finally realized something important. A person's true value is not determined by rumors, appearance, or accusations. It is revealed during the hardest moments of life. And sometimes, the person everyone doubts turns out to be the person with the purest heart. That day, the office learned a lesson they would remember forever. Never judge too quickly, because the truth has a way of revealing itself. Sooner or later, judge people by facts, not assumptions. One false accusation can destroy years of trust, while one act of kindness can change hearts forever.